Hi, my name is Samsarah Morgan. I'm a counselor, coach, and hypnotherapist in private practice in Oakland, California. And this is our video blog number 3, I believe. I'll correct that in a moment if I'm wrong. Video blog number 3 of Dating a Sociopath. Today we're going to talk about the stages of grief. And it's a very important process to know and be acquainted with. And people are going to do their grieving in different ways. And how that applies to this situation is we begin this process of grieving once we begin to find out the person who's dating the person who's exhibiting the sociopathic behaviors starts to grieve, in my opinion, as soon as they start to get signs that things are not quite right. And it's incredibly tricky with dealing with a person who is a sociopath because they're very good at the process known as gaslighting. And gaslighting is when basically they just spin reality to such an extent that you just kind of become stupefied and you just kind of doubt your own reality. So it even makes it really hard to even grieve. It makes it hard to take protective action for yourself. It makes it hard to protect yourself. So I want to talk about the steps that are generally known to happen when one is grieving, and I'm going to use the seven stages of grief by a wonderful woman by the name of Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who did a lot of writing on grieving and death and dying. But her stages are also very applicable to any other kind of loss that we might be experiencing in our lives, either loss of a loved one or a job or all manner of loss. We find ourselves going through these various stages. And before I go through that also, I just want to do a quick review on the sociopath and what that is. What do we mean when we say that? Give me a moment to pull that up. So the sociopathic personality, or what I'm looking at and when I use that terminology, so we're talking about a person who, they're in the beginning they can appear very, very charming, and in the dating world, in the dating venue, this person is really good at making themselves your dream come true, your dream person. At first, there's a big bond with them. They are in the beginning very talkative, very available, very passionate, might be a very good lover, might give all the attention in the world, but slowly over periods of time you will begin to notice some really uncomfortable behaviors, such as the person having a very huge ego, saying things that are a little frightening with the disregard for other people's feelings, other people's emotions, putting down other people who are emotional, calling them weak maybe, feeling themselves bigger and above other people. And at the same time, when it suits them, they can tear themselves down, make you feel sorry for them, make you want to take care of them. They will do whatever it is they need to do to keep you in their grasp until they're ready to dump you, if they want to do that. So the person can show oversized ego, intermittent with crashing and falling. I'm the king of the world. I'm the lowest of the low. This person could show, again, behaviors that are concerning, such as lying, manipulative behavior. On the internet, they can do things like disappearing. Suddenly the phone's not ringing. Suddenly there's no more texting. You don't hear from them for long periods of time. They pop up, or they feel like they want to pop up when they want to pop up. Slowly, that person that was there for you, would die for you, would love you, you find yourself waiting, waiting, waiting for any word from them. This person will show almost total lack of empathy for you and for other people. They will blame others um, for their mistakes and for their problems. It's never their responsibility. They are the victim of the world. Um, Again, going back to lack of remorse, you can burst into tears in front of them. They won't care. They'll show very little um, of what you would call just basic empathy and compassion, and in fact might become really verbally and emotionally abusive if you show emotions, or if you break down, or if you're afraid, or if you cry. This person sometimes has an ability to stay very, very calm in scary or dangerous situations. Um, they tend to just go into their own little world and are able to get through things with no affect, with no change of face, tone of voice, just very strangely calm. They can behave irresponsibly, incredibly so. They can be incredibly, extremely impulsive, to the point of addiction. They tend to have very few friends, or the friends that they have are very surface ones. If they have friends, they're not real friends, like they really connect. They don't have the ability to really do that give and take um, with people. They might know people, you know, in the work world, maybe, again, on the internet, again, um, people that they are like kind of text buddies with, but nobody that really knows them, or they are allowed to really know them super well. Maybe not even their family. Again, I said that one of the signs is these people are incredibly charming, but only superficially charming. They're only charming long enough to get you engaged with them. They're specifically sometimes very interested in you if you were not even interested in them in the first place. Then it becomes a game to them. It becomes a sport to get hold of you, to get your attention. Um, So say you are not, a person that has sex on the first date, and you declared that to the sociopath. He or she will put a lot of energy into being around, being engaged, being the best potential lover that you ever thought of, until you actually do sleep with them, and then they start pulling away and disappearing and making up excuses, and it all crumbles away. Sociopaths tend to live by the pleasure principle. They do what feels good to them, pretty much when they feel like doing. They do what feels good to them, without any regard for what that means to other people. Um, they don't believe in the laws of society, and even might say things like, "Oh, that doesn't apply to me," or "I'm above that." Um, right, even to saying that, even God has no control over me. I am above that. I'm above God. Sociopaths sometimes have uh, a, a pattern of being able to hold extended eye contact for a really long time. um, they tend to have really kind of piercing eyes, um, and that deep connection, especially someone who's vulnerable and really wanting connection, can be very intoxicating. And they have a great ability to control other people with their facial expression, their eyes, tone of voice, and being able to make themselves disappear and reappear whenever they want. So now let's say you are trying to recover. You're trying to recover from finding out that the person that you thought you knew, and thought cared about you, is indeed showing some of these behaviors. They've been you've been lied to, there has been infidelity, there has been money taken that is, that, so point of fact, you've been robbed, robbed emotionally, robbed financially, robbed spiritually even. Sometimes it might be physical abuse, but not necessarily. Sometimes yes, but not necessarily. But having engaged with a person with these behaviors will certainly leave a person feeling pretty beaten up. And beaten up in such a way that's not readily seen by the rest of the world. And so your grieving process might be incredibly lonely because of that. The society doesn't do a good job of supporting people who are grieving it in the first place. And broken-hearted scenarios tend to be really very easily dismissed by many people, or just get over it, just date somebody else. Gee, I'm really sorry that happened to you, but you're better off without him or her. And none of that is very comforting when you are when you're recovering from this hole in your psyche, this hole in your heart that you had made available for this person, and the deep desire that you had to trust and believe what they were saying to you doesn't help. So let's talk about these stages. The first stage of grieving is denial, and it's that feeling of this can't be happening. I can't even believe it. I can't believe this person has been unfaithful. I can't believe that this person has been maybe lying about who they were, lying about being married or being single. I can't believe that I haven't been loved when I felt that I've been loved. Denial takes a long time sometimes. Hopefully you have the care of support of a good counselor, a good therapist, relationship coach, life coach, and somebody who can help you to pull this together for yourself, to really look at all of the dynamics and to come out of denial. It's generally not possible when you're in denial to take action steps to move out of the situation. I'm going to talk about these 7 steps, but they don't necessarily happen 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But it's important to know that they can and will happen, and that each one of them is important, and each one of them allows us to process our grief and to get to the other side of it. So the second stage I'm going to talk about today is anger. And anger is one of those emotions that gets shamed a great deal in our culture. And I think anger is completely appropriate when we've had a boundary violated, when we've been lied to, cheated on, stolen from. Anger is it makes perfect sense. And what's difficult about anger with a sociopathic person is that they are really good at flipping the script and flipping your anger back onto you and making you feel just completely crazy. I don't recommend trying to process your anger with the person that you're trying to recover from. It's almost always a losing proposition. It will almost always be projected back onto you in such a way that you can just be driven wacky. Or worse yet, you'll be driven to pick up something and hit this person, and then you'll be a person who has physically injured somebody, and then that punishment, societal punishment, falls on you, and it's completely unfair, and it's completely unjust that should ever happen. So please, if you are feeling anger, a trusted friend, perhaps someone who could really be there for you and really listen, a therapist, clergy, good solid loving clergy, counselor, life coach, those are the people that you get to go to process your anger. Somatic therapy, body-centered therapy, where you might even get the opportunity to hit something or punch something, would be ideal. So that you can process that anger. It's appropriate, it's right, it's what you do with the anger that makes it healthy or unhealthy. Actually punching the person that you're angry with is not going to bring you the results that you deserve. You don't deserve to be hurt because somebody hurt you. You don't deserve to then be the person who gets the police called on them when your heart is broken. Completely unfair. So let's try to not have that happen. Bargaining is a third stage. That looks like lots of things. Trying to, in this situation that we're talking about, like maybe even negotiating with the other person, like, did you really mean this? Are you really, is this really who you are? You know, show me that you're somebody else. Show me that this is not true. Let me, just trying to do anything in your head to come to terms with the fact that all you thought is not. Very, very hard work. Again, not work to be done with the person that you're grieving from. This is work to be done in a therapeutic environment with solid, loving people who care about you. It can help you come to your center, to your place of understanding about what this person is, what has happened in your life, and what action steps you need to take to restore your life to balance. After bargaining can come depression. Once you're starting to really, really let it sink in, the depth of the lies, the depth of the deception, the depth of the hurt, you might find yourself depressed for a time. Again, temporary depression makes sense under these circumstances. It is something that you want to keep monitoring. You want to make sure you're doing very good self-care. That means you're taking very good care of your physical body, your mind, and your soul. You're eating well, even if you don't feel like eating. You're eating good, nutritious food. You're reaching out to your support system. If you don't have a support system, you're creating one. With people who care about you. And start with the therapeutic people and build from there. 12-step groups are very helpful. Places where you can go and just sit and talk about how you're feeling. CODA is a good group for this. Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous is a very good group for this, especially if you go to the codependence meetings. But definitely Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous is a good meeting to go to talk about issues of emotions and sexual relationships, relationship breakups, or trying to restore health in relationships, infidelity, the whole kettle of fish would be SLAA, Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous, would be a great meeting to attend, to find a lot of compassion and support for what you're going through. The most important thing when you're depressed is do not hurt yourself. Do not do anything that will harm your beautiful self. You've been through enough. You're recovering now. You might not feel it today, but the rest of your life is really ahead of you. You do not deserve to do anything to permanently harm or injure your beautiful self or your beautiful life because someone else was inappropriate. So please, get all the support you need so that does not have to happen. Acceptance is a stage where you're beginning to come to balance. You're beginning to see exactly what happened as it happened. You begin to accept that person for who he or she actually was and not who you wished or hoped that they would be. You don't blame yourself for loving as best you could. And you see how no matter how much you had loved, it would have been impossible with this person. It would have been impossible. It is impossible for sociopaths to love unless they are willing to go and seek help and heal and be available and able to love. And that doesn't happen that often. So the best you can do is to heal up your own precious and amazing self. And this place of acceptance is like a cool, still pond. In the earlier stages, your life was this tumultuous ocean with waves crashing and a lot of emotions flying, and acceptance can be this cool, calm oasis where you might start to feel the way you felt before you ever met this person, and you might start to feel whole again. And that's a beautiful, beautiful thing. So, I'm going to wish you well in your stages of grieving. My prayer is that you do your grief really well, with lots of good support, with lots of good care for yourself, with a lot of self-love and self-acceptance. Understand that these stages are cyclical. They come and they go. Generally, for most kinds of grief, the first year is the hardest. I do recommend and I do hope that you have the ability to not have to deal with this person anymore, even if you might have to go forward and take legal action and recover monies that were taken from you, get divorced, whatever legal work that you have to do. Perhaps you can have, an attorney between you and that person, that you're not constantly buffeted by them anymore, because you did actually authentically love them. There's the love of the grief of the love that you had for that person that's going to be present, that you have to do. Get as much loving support as you can to allow yourself to do the real world things that you might need to do to disconnect yourself from the situation. Just do the very, very best you can. The most important thing is to not blame yourself and not allow yourself to be abused any further than you've already been. So I do wish you a good grief. There is such a thing as a good grief. And I want to say again, as I say to myself, because I am doing my own grief right now, the rest of our lives are in front of us, and that life will be full of the learnings that we've attained from this period of time. I want to say goodbye to you now, and I'll be back again soon to talk some more, hopefully to be of help. If you want to email me, you can do that at datingasociopath@gmail.com. I'll leave a little information in the description of this video, description of the stages of grief for you to refer to if you'd like. Again, my name is Samsarah Morgan, and I want you to remember, hold close to your heart the reality that you are whole, perfect, and complete. Be well.